Hello everyone. Welcome to part 10 of our anti-Japanese war series. In this episode, we focus on the conflict between China and Japan in the period following World War II. World War II ended with Japan's defeat, yet the smoke of war did not truly dissipate. Open and covert struggles between China and Japan continued, often in new forms. Looking back over the decade since the war, Sino-Japanese confrontation has mainly manifested in the following areas. 1. Territorial and maritime disputes. The most prominent dispute concerns the Jeju Islands and their surrounding waters. On August 12, 1970, the United States, despite China's strong opposition, unilaterally declared that the Jeju Islands are part of the Ryukyu Islands and announced plans to return them, together with Okinawa, to Japan the following year. Shortly afterward, on September 10, the Japanese government publicly asserted that the Senkaku Islands, i.e., the Jeju Islands, belonged to Japan and declared that it would not discuss sovereignty with any other country. The U.S. decision to return a Chinese territory to Japan, combined with Japan's attempt to annex the Jeju Islands and openly infringe upon China's sovereignty, triggered widespread outrage among Chinese people on the mainland, in Taiwan, Hong Kong, Macau, and overseas Chinese communities. This outrage gave rise to the Jeju Islands Protection Movement. Major milestones of this movement include: November 17, 1970, Taiwanese students at Princeton University formed the Action Committee for Defending the Jeju Islands, opposing the secret U.S.O Japan arrangement. January–February 1971, thousands of mainland Chinese and Taiwanese students protested in front of the United Nations headquarters. 1992, China promulgated the Law on the Territorial Sea and the Contiguous Zone, reaffirming in legal form that the Jeju Islands are Chinese territory. 1996 onward, numerous actions were organized in Hong Kong and Taiwan, some resulting in casualties. 2003 to 2012, various protection organizations were established, multiple landings were carried out to assert sovereignty, and in September 2012 the Chinese government formally announced the baselines of the territorial sea of the Jeju Islands and their affiliated islets. Since 1970, protests defending the Jeju Islands have taken place worldwide. The most intense occurred in 2012, when large-scale anti-Japanese demonstrations erupted across mainland China, accompanied by incidents such as the destruction of Japanese goods. Beyond the Jeju Islands, China and Japan also dispute maritime boundaries in the East China Sea. China advocates delimitation based on the United Nations Convention on the Continental Shelf, while Japan insists on the median line principle. Due to unresolved sovereignty disputes, no maritime boundary has been agreed upon. Even though China's oil and gas development activities occur entirely on its own side, Japan continues to oppose them. Historically, during the Cairo Conference, U.S. President Roosevelt proposed returning all Chinese territories occupied by Japan, including Northeast China, Taiwan, the Penghu Islands, and the Ryukyu Islands, to China. Chiang Kai-shek accepted the return of the Northeast, Taiwan, and the Penghu Islands but expressed reservations about the Ryukyus, suggesting joint administration with the United States under international trusteeship. Despite Roosevelt's repeated emphasis on the Ryukyus' strategic importance as Taiwan's eastern shield, Chiang Kai-shek declined sole administration. As a result, in 1947 the United Nations placed the Ryukyu Islands under U.S. trusteeship. With shifts in global politics, the United States later supported Japan and in 1970 transferred both the Ryukyu Islands and the Jeju Islands to Japanese administration. Had China not been embroiled in civil war and had it been able to occupy the Ryukyus in accordance with the Cairo and Potsdam declarations, today's disputes might never have arisen. 2. Historical perception and responsibility. Japan's post-war attitude toward its aggression can be summarized as evasion, denial, and even glorification. While Japan outwardly acknowledges defeat, it inwardly resents the outcome, venerates fallen soldiers, including war criminals, and teaches later generations that the war was justified as resistance against Western colonialism. Having suffered atomic bombings, Japan often portrays itself as a victim, obscuring its role as an aggressor. Japanese right-wing forces seek to revive militarism and reclaim what they view as lost glory. A 2023 Sino-Japanese public opinion survey showed that 92% of Japanese respondents held negative views toward China, while only 62% of Chinese respondents expressed dislike toward Japan, demonstrating comparatively greater goodwill among the Chinese public. In my hometown, some Japanese who remained in China after the war were neither persecuted nor discriminated against. They and their descendants were treated no differently from other Chinese citizens. Regarding war reparations, the nationalist government first waived claims, and the People's Republic of China reaffirmed this waiver when diplomatic relations were normalized in 1972. Although there has long been public expectation for compensation, more than 80 years have passed since the war, survivors are few, and private claims have largely failed. It is unlikely such claims will re-emerge. 3. Support for Taiwanese independence and interference in China's internal affairs. Japan ruled Taiwan for 50 years, leaving behind cultural influence and a population with strong pro-Japanese sentiment. Some individuals of Japanese descent in Taiwan form a core element of the independence movement. Japan has openly and covertly supported pro-independence forces, many of whom maintain close ties with Japanese political circles. A common saying in Japan is, if Taiwan is in trouble, Japan is in trouble. In recent years, Japan has shifted military deployments toward its southwestern islands, openly identifying China as a potential adversary and conducting joint military exercises with the United States. These actions embolden separatist forces and make the Taiwan issue a major obstacle to China's national rejuvenation. 4. Acting as a pawn in anti-China strategies. China's GDP surpassing Japan's in 2010 shocked Japanese society. Conscious of past atrocities, Japan fears retaliation from a stronger China. Consequently, it has intensified military preparations, attempted to revise its pacifist constitution, and further bound itself to the U.S. Japan Security Alliance, even including the Jeju Islands within that framework. Amid growing Sino-US competition, Japan positions itself as a core pillar of the U.S. Indo-Pacific strategy and promotes initiatives such as the so-called Diamond Strategy to contain China's rise. History shows a clear pattern: when China is strong, East Asia is stable; when Japan surpasses China in strength, the region descends into turmoil. Japan aligns itself with the strongest power of each era: Britain during World War I, Germany before World War II, and the United States afterward. The United States, aware of Japan's ambitions and grievances, maintains a strong military presence not only for strategic purposes but also to restrain Japan itself. Conclusion. Today, we call on Japan to reflect sincerely on its wartime aggression, to oppose visits by politicians to the Yasukuni Shrine, which enshrines war criminals, and to prevent the resurgence of militarism. Only through honest reflection can history avoid repeating itself. May the world enjoy lasting peace. This concludes our War of Resistance Against Japan series. The next episode will focus on fitness. If you have authentic stories related to the War of Resistance Against Japan and wish to share them through this channel, please contact us. See you next time.